Good evening, here's Top News newsletter starting with headlines. President Al-Assad, people should pressure governments to stop supporting terrorism. Army units kills terrorists, crush their positions. Tehran slams Netanyahu's Iranophobic speech at US Congress. Obama, nothing new in Netanyahu's controversial speech. The army continued operations in Al-Zabadani and eastern Al-Ghouta, killing scores of terrorists, many of them of non-Syrian nationalists, destroying their vehicles, weaponry and ammunition. Army units targeted terrorist hideouts and concentrations in Erbil and Hammuriya, killing and injuring a number of terrorists and destroying their weapons. While units of the army destroyed terrorist dens, killing many of them and injuring others in a Sheikh Maskin, Ataman and southern side of Dail in Daraa. Earlier, many terrorists were killed, others were injured, and their vehicles were destroyed during army operations that targeted their gatherings in Tafas city to the north of Daraa city, a military source said. While the army is advancing further into eastern countryside of Homs, establishing full control over the gas well in the countrysides of Palmyra. The gas well came into the army's hands after an army unit killed many terrorists of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, ISIS, who had the well under their control. President Bashar al-Assad said that combating terrorism needs, in parallel to battling with the terrorists, having people pressure their governments to hold their support to those. The president was addressing a Turkish delegation that included political, economic and party figures representing various Turkish parties and establishments during a meeting. A real cooperation among countries is needed to fight the scourge of terrorism, along with work to battle against the Takfiri mentality that feeds their storage. President Al-Assad added. He viewed the Turkish delegation's visit as an indicator that real relations between countries are built by people and not by governments. Governments, he said, may follow inward-looking and subversive policies that are not in the people's interest. For their part, members of the Turkish delegations headed by Tong Pernesk, leader of the Turkish Nationalist Land Party, said what Syria is achieving in terms of combating terrorism is a primary factor in warding off the dangers of the fragmentation projects targeting the region. Senior official at the Foreign Ministry said Iranophobic speech of the Zionist regime Prime Minister at the US Congress was part of his campaign for upcoming legislative elections. Spokeswoman of the Foreign Ministry Marziya Afkham made the remarks while commenting on the anti-Iran address of Benjamin Netanyahu to the US lawmakers, which coincided with the ongoing nuclear talks between Iran and the Group 5+1. In his address to the U.S. Congress yesterday, the Zionist leader warned them of what he claimed to be making a bad deal with Iran. However, the White House described his controversial statements as unhelpful, shortly after the Israeli Prime Minister ranted against the ongoing Iran nuclear talks. President Barack Obama told reporters that Netanyahu did not offer any viable alternative. The U.S. president said there was nothing new in Netanyahu's speech. Continuation to the Syrian view, Secretary General of Turkish Nationalist Land Party said that government of the Justice and Development Party in Turkey is a terrorist organization that seeks a destruction of Syria, Iraq and the entire region. He said it's astonishing to see a Turkish parliamentary delegation in Syria, which visited the country to discuss means of fighting terrorists, while the Turkish president visits Saudi Arabia to discuss means of supporting terrorism in Syria, Iraq and the region. He described as great, honest and friendly his meeting with President Al-Assad, warning that Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his Prime Minister are seeking destruction, the secular Republic of Turkey as well. That was all for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Nibal Hneidi. Good night.